Hello, everyone. Hey, y'all. I hope you're having a great Thursday. So if you are just joining us for the first time, welcome. I am Christina, your host, and today, so each week I try to do on Thursdays, I try to come on at 1 p.m. and we are currently reading the book Daring Greatly. So if you're not familiar with Bernee Brown, what are you doing with your life? Basically, Bernee is a shame and vulnerability researcher, which, I mean, I love like how we all can relate to shame and vulnerability. I feel like we've all had it. She says that like vulnerability, being vulnerable and having vulnerability in our lives is the key to having wholehearted relationships. And so, interestingly, on that note, today's chapter 7 is titled Wholehearted Parenting, Daring to be the Adult We Want Our Children to Be. Who we are and how we engage with the world are much stronger predictors of how our children will do than what we know about parenting. In terms of teaching our children to dare greatly in the never enough culture, the question isn't so much, are you parenting the right way, as it is, are you the adult that you want your child to grow up to be? So just a full disclosure, I actually don't have kids yet. I want them eventually someday. But I love this last line, are you parenting the right way? Because I feel like it is so normal to want to say like, are we parenting the right way, right? Like, am I doing the right things? Am I saying the right things? Like, I feel like especially my generation, I'm 32, I think we have this like obsession with like feeding kids the exact right things, how much screen time, how much playtime, like all these things. So I think she's saying like, is there an exact right way? Maybe not, but I love what she's saying. She says, are you the adult that you want your child to grow up to be? So basically she's saying like, you don't have to get it right, but our children are watching. I remember growing up, just completely, hi Ryan, thank you for joining. If you just joined us today, we're talking about wholehearted parenting, daring to be the adults we want our children to be. So if you're a parent out there, I would love to hear your experience with parenting and what it means to you to show up and, excuse me, my cats, I have 2 cats and they are wrestling each other right now. Anyway, so she starts off the chapter talking about parenting in a culture of never enough. So if you aren't familiar with that term, it's like akin to scarcity. So scarcity is like never enough, and the never enough culture is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's, you're never thin enough, you're never smart enough. Those are 2 that I deal with, but you're never a good enough parent. There's never enough time. So we just automatically come from this mindset that like, no matter what we do, we are not enough. So she opens the chapter up by talking about like parenting when you're not enough. So she says, but if doubt lurks beneath my choices, that self-righteous critic will spring to life in not so subtle parenting moments that happen because my underlying fear of not being the perfect parent is driving my need to confirm that at the very least. Somewhere buried deep inside our hopes and fears for our children is the terrifying truth that there is no such thing as perfect parenting and there are no guarantees. So I love that. So she's talking about like this fear, right, that we have, that we want to do our best for our kids. I think that's just like a natural human thing. You have kids, like you want to provide the best home that you can. You want to provide all the things that you can, but you're not perfect. So I'm not sure if anyone that's watching deals with this, but like, I'm really curious if you have kids or you're a grandparent, or even if you have kids in your life, do you struggle with not feeling like enough? Do you feel like you don't give your kids enough? Do you feel like you don't spend enough time with them? Like, what does that look like for you? So I love this section. I've highlighted. She says, if wholeheartedness is the goal, then above all else, we should strive to raise children who. So she's basically talking about kids, raising kids, and having like a goal, like a standard, not necessarily of how we do it, but like the outcome or the intention. So I'll just read a few of them. So she's suggesting that we raise children who engage with the world from a place of worthiness, embrace their vulnerabilities and imperfections, feel a deep sense of love and compassion for themselves and others, value hard work, perseverance, and respect, carry a sense of authenticity and belonging with them rather than searching for it in external places. In other words, we want our children to love and accept who they are. Our job is to love and accept, and our job is to love and accept who we are. Oh my goodness, this is so, gotta take a deep breath for that one, because, you guys know, or I've shared a little bit, but I am sober, and I got sober during COVID from alcohol. I'm actually 500 days sober today. But it really resonates with me what she said, that our job as parents is to love and accept who we are. And I can't lie, y'all, like that's a huge one for me. Because when I was in active addiction, I did and said things that I never thought I would. Just being completely honest, right? I hurt people. I was dishonest. So I think about raising kids, and I think about bringing them into the world and what that looks like. And I want to model what self-love and respect looks like to them. But it's something that I'm definitely working on, right? So I don't think recovery for me has been a daily process. So I'm curious, if you're a parent, how do you model self-love for your kids? Is it hard, or is it something that's come relatively easy to you? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Okay, so then she talks about shame as a parent, because obviously I shared with you guys earlier, she researches shame. So understanding and combating shame. It's a terrible myth to believe that once we have children, our journey ends and theirs begins. For many of us, the most interesting and productive times in our lives come after we have children. I have heard this before. I've heard that like having kids is like having a mirror held up to you, right? I can speak, I can't see again the kids part because I don't have them yet, but being married is like having a mirror shown to me like every day, just because sometimes my husband reflects my better self, and then other times he helps me see where I need to improve. So she's talking about having shame and parenting. So she has a list again. I love her list. But we all have a list that says, oh my gosh, this is so good. I will be worthy when I lose weight. I'm on that one right now, y'all. I gained like 40 pounds during COVID. And I'm the heaviest I've ever been. And it's been really hard in full vulnerability and transparency, it's been really hard to even want to lose the weight. I don't feel comfortable in my skin, but anyway. So she's saying that if we want to model wholehearted parenting, we need to try and know and understand and model to our kids that we are worthy, even if we are overweight. So she goes on to the list. I am worthy if I get accepted into this school, if my wife's not cheating, if we don't get divorced, when I get pregnant, if I get promoted, when he asks me out, when we buy a house in this neighborhood. Shame loves prerequisites. Our if-when worthiness list easily doubles as the gremlin's to-do list. Don't let her forget that her mom thinks she should lose that baby weight. Gosh, that's a huge one. We put weight stigmas on, or weight on women all the time. So I love this. So, you know, she's talked about shame up to this point, but then she talks about, you know, how shame can creep into every area of our lives and how shame can impact our parenting. So if we don't believe that we're worthy as parents, right? If we always have, like she was calling them prerequisites, so like things that we have to achieve or obtain before we realize that we're worthy, that will obviously ultimately impact our kids, because back at the beginning, she says, you know, we want to stop asking the question, are you parenting the right way? And something better to ask is, are you the adult that you want your child to grow up to be? Which I absolutely love. So another one that she dives into is perfectionism. Perfectionism is another fount of prerequisites. In a dozen years of studying worthiness, I'm convinced that perfectionism is actually contagious. If we struggle with being, living, and looking absolutely perfect, we might as well line our children up and slip those little perfection straitjackets right over their heads. So I don't know about y'all, but I completely relate to this. I grew up same, like feeling the need to be perfect, feeling the need to be the perfect weight, which resulted in an eating disorder, feeling the need to be the perfect Christian. That's another one that I can dive into a little bit later in my story. But, you know, I was raised in an evangelical home. And so it was we valued not sinning, and we valued, you know, repenting from our sins, and, you know, not gossiping, and just all these different things. And I felt like it was a standard that I could never reach. You know, so I saw perfectionism creep into my life from a very young age. And then the result of not achieving that perfectionism was, what was it? Oh, it was shame. So I love this story. So she talks about, she has a daughter named Ellen, and she says that Ellen got her first tardy at school. She immediately broke down crying. She was so upset about breaking the rules and upsetting her teacher or the principal that she just fell apart. We kept telling her that it wasn't a big deal and that everyone is late sometimes until she felt better. That evening, we celebrate surviving our first tardy with a tardy party dinner. She finally agreed that it wasn't a big deal and that other people probably didn't judge her for being human. So I love this because I completely relate. I was that kid. Like if I was late, I was terrified of letting people down. And that has parlayed into my reality as an adult, right? Like to this day, an area of perfectionism, if I'm being vulnerable, that I struggle with is people pleasing, right? Like people pleasing is no joke. I constantly want to make others happy. I want to respond to text. I want to go out. I want to be there for people. I want to say yes to all the things. And that's just not always physically possible. So, okay. Let's see, where is the next? So she talks about, so obviously these are all prerequisites, and she talks about how childhood experiences of shame change who we are, how we think about ourselves, and our sense of self-worth. We can work hard not to use shame as a parenting tool, but our children are still going to encounter shame in the outside world. The good news is that when children understand the distinction between shame and guilt, and when they know that we're interested and open to talking about these feelings and experiences, they are much more likely to talk to us about the shaming experiences they may encounter. I love this so much. So if you don't know the difference between shame and guilt, she has a really easy to understand way. Or to break it down. So shame is I am bad. Like who I am to my core on the inside is I am bad. And then guilt is I did something bad, which obviously guilt is healthier, because if you did something bad, then you can fix it. You can make amends. You can ask for forgiveness. But if you are bad to your core, then that means there's just something inherently wrong with you. So she says that that teaching our kids that from a young age can build what she calls shame resilience, which basically means you're not exempt from the feeling of shame. It's just that when shame pops up, you will be able to handle it better. Okay, so you can't claim to care about the welfare of our children if you're shaming other parents for the choices they're making. So this is the next part of the book I love, or the chapter, because I mean, again, I don't have kids yet, but I see this all the time, especially online. I work in digital marketing, and online you see the shaming of mothers all the time. Like, you see, like, you should breastfeed, you shouldn't breastfeed, you know, you shouldn't co-sleep, you should, like, all these different things. And we shame, they're having too much screen time, they shouldn't eat this, right? We're constantly shaming parents and mothers, and that's not helping the situation either. So she's saying that not only do we not need to shame ourselves, but we also need to be kinder to the other parents in our lives. I love that, which I love so much. So she talks about how being vulnerable, as she goes on, it takes courage to be vulnerable. What do parents experience as the most vulnerable and bravest thing that they do in their efforts to raise wholehearted children? I thought it would take days to figure it out, but as I looked over the field notes, the answer was obvious: letting their children struggle and experience adversity. So this is a really good one. I was so impressed with this because it makes so much sense. I think as a go-to, like as a parent, right? Like, we don't want, I mean, if you love anyone, you don't have to be a parent to relate to this. You don't want the people in your life to go through adversity. You don't want to let them go through pain. You actually want to, fix it for them. But that's not the healthy way to do it. This is Bernee talking. I used to struggle with letting go and allowing my children to find their own way. But something that I learned in the research dramatically changed my perspective. And I no longer see rescuing and intervening as unhelpful. I now think about it as dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I still struggle and step in when I shouldn't, but now I think twice before I let my discomfort dictate my behaviors. Here's why. Hope is a function of struggle. If we want our children to develop high levels of hopefulness, we have to let them struggle. And let me tell you, next to love and belonging, I'm not sure I want anything more for my kids than a deep sense of hopefulness. So this makes so much sense to me. I love this, right? Because if we rush in and fix or cajole or tell them everything's okay, and sometimes it's not. So I think something that I hear her saying is, like, basically our kids are going to go through hard things, right? Like, once they leave that front door in the morning, there's just a lot that's out of our control as parents. So, but she's saying that learning how to sit with them inside that pain is what's going to make the difference. And basically teaching them that, one, they have the skills to take care of themselves. They have the skills to reach inside and take care of what they need to. And then the other part of that is that breeds strength and hope, right? So I can tell you, as a recovering alcoholic, hope is what's gotten me sober. Hope is what keeps me here, right? Is if I didn't have hope for the future, if I didn't have hope that I could get sober, I wouldn't. So I absolutely love that. So if we're always following our children into the arena, hushing the critics and assuring their victory, they'll never learn that they have the ability to dare greatly on their own, which I absolutely love. I mean, that's exactly what she was talking about. The whole book's called Daring Greatly, but if we take care of things or fix things for our kids, then they won't ever have the ability to jump in and realize, like, get in the arena, get dirty, mess things up themselves, and realize, like, life is about daring greatly. I don't think anything worthwhile is easy, or, it doesn't have a little bit of being scared to it. And teaching our kids that they can do hard things, as my favorite writer says, Glennon Doyle, one of my other favorite writers, is so important. So I'm going to end with this. She has a wholehearted parenting manifesto, and I absolutely love it. It's basically like her document that she reads to her kids and has for her family. Above all else, I want you to know that you are loved and lovable. You will learn this from my words and actions. The lessons on love are in how I treat you and how I treat myself. I want you to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. You will learn that you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy every time you see me practice self-compassion and embrace my own imperfections. We will practice courage in our family by showing up, letting ourselves be seen, and honoring vulnerability. We will share our stories of struggle and strength. There will always be room in our home for both. We will teach you compassion by practicing compassion with ourselves first, then with each other. We will set and respect boundaries. We will honor hard work, hope, and perseverance. Rest and play will be family values as well as family practices. You will learn accountability and rest by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. I want you to know joy, so together we will practice gratitude. I want you to feel joy, so together we will learn how to be vulnerable. When uncertainty and scarcity visit, you will be able to draw from the spirit that is part of everyday life. Together we will cry and face grief. I will want to take away your pain, but instead I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. We will laugh and sing and dance and create. We will always have permission to be ourselves with each other. No matter what, you will always belong here. As you begin your wholehearted journey, the greatest gift that I can give to you is to live and love with my whole heart and dare greatly. I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always hold sacred the gifts of seeing you, truly, deeply seeing you. Oh, that makes me tear up, y'all. I don't know why, but I think it's so beautiful. I think I want to steal that basically and put it on my wall when I have kids someday. But I love, like, for me, I think the whole beautiful thing at the end of that is I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always hold sacred the gift of seeing you. I mean, honestly, when it comes down to everything, studies show this, like happiness, right? Like anything we want out of life is based on community and being seen, and then being seen and loved for who we are. So I can't think of, there are many important relationships in our lives, but, beyond our parent, I think our parents are one of the most important ones. And if we have parents that can let us see the real them, right? Like, and their struggles and their strengths, I can't think of anything healthier or more beautiful. So anyway, if you joined me today for Christina's Corner, I'm so grateful. I love having you all every week. This is always so fun for me because this is one of my favorite books. We are coming to the end. So if you guys have any suggestions, you can always, you can message me on Facebook, or here is my email address. I love to hear from you guys. So if you have any ideas for other books that you want to read, or do you think we should read, please let me know, because we will obviously be continuing this book club. And as you can see, it's short and sweet, super to the point and fun. We usually do a half an hour at the longest. And then the other thing I love to say is this is the book club where you don't have to read the book. I mean, please do. But we don't want that to be a prerequisite for you to come and find community and chat, because I know we all have busy lives. And then also most books are available on audio, so like Audible. So if that's how you prefer to read, yes, show up, be you, stay gold. Oh, I love that. That's really cool. I'm going to steal that. Thank you, Jay. But anyways, so I think that's it for today, unless you guys have any other questions, or so yeah, feel free to email me or just message me on Facebook if you have any books that you want us to read. I think we're trying to stay in the realm of, I mean, I'm pretty open to things, I think, but anything kind of like hate the word self-improvement, but just anything like having to do with growth or like learning or anything like that can help us improve and be better people. I'm always up for that. So yeah, y'all, thank you so much for joining me in Christina's Corner. Make it a great day.